Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Harmonious World. My name is Hilary Seabrook. I've just returned from Love Supreme and it was an absolutely brilliant weekend. There's a special episode out now. This episode features Bjorn Arko, who I saw playing sax with Billy Cobham. Billy Cobham! I saw Billy Cobham. That's a life-changing moment. Billy Cobham was the drummer for Miles Davis, and now he's working with younger musicians and sharing what he's good at every day. So when I heard him play with Billy Cobham, I reached out to Bjorn. He's got an incredible history. He's played with a lot of people. Seems to be based in Sweden and Japan. He obtained a master's degree in jazz sax from the Royal College of Music in Stockholm. And he also plays wind synthesizer, which is really amazing to hear. He's played with lots and lots of people, including the Blue Note Jazz Orchestra. So I'm really looking forward to having a chat with him. And what you're listening to now is Bjorn Arko's version of Nature Boy.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hey, yeah, I can now, Bjorn. Hi.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm really good, thank you. How are you?
Good. It was a long travel day yesterday, but
Sure.
yeah, I eventually ended up
Yeah.
where I was supposed to get
Okay.
at. That's great.
Yeah, good. I got back at 1:00 this morning, and
Oh,
yeah, so it was just an incredible weekend. So it was really good.
you went there for the whole thing, yeah?
Yeah, it was brilliant. There was so much great music. It was brilliant.
Right.
But
It's
I
a
was sorry.
it's a great festival indeed.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you played there before?
No, never. I heard about it, and I have some. I checked out when people played, but never. It was the first time for me this
Yeah.
time.
Well, and the first time, and you were playing with Billy Cobham. That's
Yeah.
insane, isn't
Yes.
it?
Yeah, it's kind of actually since I like my very first band I ever had when I was about maybe 11, 12 years old. We actually played Red Baron by Billy Cobham. So it's kind of circle doing it with the guy is kind of unbelievable. It's a real bless just being chosen to play with those that
Yeah.
high level of musicianship. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everybody in that band, they're incredible. That and the percussionist, I don't think he's a usual member of Billy
No,
Cobham's band.
Marco, yes. I think he has joined for from time to time. I'm not sure about like when he started, but they played a bunch of times, and he will play with Bill now in Europe, the remaining gigs with the smaller band.
Yeah.
But he came directly from Brazil, as I heard when I talked to him. So and he joined us for that Love Supreme only. The gig we did before in Norway, he wasn't in the group. Then he was in London.
Right.
Yeah, but he was also great, and what a performer! I was
Oh,
equally surprised. What is going on here?
yeah. When he came out to the front with that, what do you know what that instrument is called that he was playing? A stick with
Oh,
a thing on it.
right. Oh, I need to look it up.
He had several instruments I need to look up though,
Right.
because he must have had 100, 150 in
Yeah.
different incredible things. And then he'd
Yeah.
got the bells on his ankles.
Right. Right. Yeah. It was so great, and he told me there was a singer, a friend of his, I think also a Brazilian singer, who made his outfit as well. So
Oh, right. Yeah, it
he
was
said,
insane.
and he was Marco is his name. Yeah, he
Yeah.
was incredible. But I didn't know about their like duo thing. We didn't hear about that in advance. We were like, okay, now, okay, I assume they're doing their thing now. So
Yeah. Yeah, and that was amazing. And it's one of the things that I liked, which shows, when you've got a classy performer like Billy Cobham, is
Mhm.
that he knows how to get the dynamics in
Yeah,
pieces, but also across a set. So there's
right.
always something new coming up, and you go, "Oh, okay, where's that come from?"
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. And he's also, I think he's such a good listener. Apart from being a great drummer, he's always like, while performing, he can follow. We need to change here, or we need to build up the tension. So yeah, it has this, kind of jazzy approach to, you never know what's happened until you get to the stage. Even if you decided, we're going to do this and this, depending on how the audience is responding, and he's aware of everything. He's such a master of, the form, as you said, the form of the
Yeah.
performance. Just a great school to be in.
Oh, absolutely. Well, that brings me to two things. So, first of all, I arrived early because I was determined I wasn't going to be at the back for this one. So I was
I,
quite near the front, but I arrived while the sound check was going on. And it
Mhm.
was really interesting because Billy Cobham was sitting on the drum kit, and he was dictating the sound check,
Right.
which was really interesting. He's really got good ears, hasn't he?
Incredible ears.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing. Of course, it's a technical thing, but to have that is
Yeah.
that's a real good school of just hearing the band. That's also a hard thing. You can be so involved with your own instruments, but he knows. He has that deeper sense of knowledge, I suppose.
Absolutely. Well, which brings me on to so honestly, that set was the highlight of Saturday for me. The
Wow.
highlight the highlight of Sunday for me was Christian McBride's Ursa Major.
Yeah. McBride was playing too, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And that was really amazing. And but I also heard Christian McBride doing an interview earlier in the day, and he said that although he had some formal musical education, which obviously you have as well, you have a master's, but he said the best school he went to was playing in bands with some of the real kind of top musicians. And I guess that's true for you as well.
Yeah, it's kind of you can learn so and so much in school. You can really. I think you can. I guess you can get the tools, and you can get like what it's about to be a. Once you get out there, so to speak, as a professional musician, you can get the tools that help you, make the job easier. But certain things you need to be there with the guys to really. It's an oral tradition. There's some things you can read in a book, and you can't really listen. You can't get it from records either. You need to really be in the same space, and share it. It's so much you can't really do at college or whatever.
Right.
Uh,
So for the sake of my listeners, because I've obviously checked you all out, but for the sake of my listeners, can you tell us a bit about how what your background, so how you ended up where you are now, your
Mm.
musical career?
Yeah, well, I started out maybe I was about 10, 11 years old, like playing saxophone, and got hooked early on, like got the jazz bug, as they said.
Yeah,
So I'm actually from the countryside here in Sweden, but I knew early on that I want to pursue and do this thing. What I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just wanted to play,
right,
basically. And then I went to there's high school in Sweden called Söderatins High School or Söderatins Gymnasium, which I would say most of the jazz players in Sweden, they go through that school. It's a
right.
great, they have a great music program since many years before, and that was great. And after that, I went directly to Royal College of Music in Stockholm, and from there on, I started to play professionally. Maybe 2011, I started playing with bands, learning, arranging, and the since 2021, I've been residing in Japan. Actually, with my wife is Japanese. We met in Sweden, but so now we're kind of going back and forth, try to do stuff in Europe and in Japan, and well, that's in short terms. So
Yeah. I wondered what the connection was with Japan, because I saw on your website there's lots of collaborations with
all right,
musicians there. So you met your wife in Sweden, but then you've obviously
yeah,
gone backwards and forwards.
yeah, and we'll always wanted to live, like trying out in how it is to be in Japan and pursue things, but then the timing was kind of right through the pandemic. It was everything was canceled anyway in Sweden, so we thought, okay, maybe this is a good timing to, because we're not leaving anything.
Yeah,
Or everything was canceled anyway. So that was a kind of, in one sense, a good timing just to try it out. And now we're kind of yeah, it's always hard to have the cake and eat it. So try to be in Japan, but while still maintaining and staying things in Europe. But that's kind of what I'm trying to do right now.
right. But you're obviously an international musician, so I guess it doesn't matter where you're based in some ways.
That's in some sense it's true. Yeah, right.
Yeah, yeah. Right, okay. Right. The next thing I really want to ask you about is the wind synthesizer that you used.
Yeah.
That, because I'm a sax player, so
Okay.
so the only synths I've seen that look like saxophones tend to be, they look like more like a clarinet.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you
Right.
you play your hands one above the other like that.
Yeah.
Whereas when you were playing, the hands are side by side, which absolutely freaked me out. I have to say, I was like, how do you do that? Because it doesn't make any difference. But somehow you're not, instead of them being on top of each other, they're next to each other. So what is that, first of all?
Yeah, that's a good question, and like the straight one, like the wind synthesizer, like history in short terms. It was this Ewe is called the one like that has more a clarinet shape. It was invented by a gentleman in U.S. who's still inventing and making stuff called Niles Steiner. He created the first one for trumpet called EVI and one for saxophone called the EWI, which was made famous by Michael Brecker and Bob
Yes.
Miller and those guys. And eventually that, I think, I don't really know about the rights, but a Japanese company called Akai, they started to produce it in Japan, like the EWI 1000, 3000, and so on. And just before Michael Brecker passed, he was playing a prototype. There are videos when he plays in Japan with steps ahead, called the Rad, which you hold like the one I played. It was called the
Yeah.
RAD, the Rad. And then, yeah, years went on, and a gentleman here in northern Sweden called Anders Berglund, he started to make and collaborating with Niles Steiner, making this it's called New Rad, NURAD, so like the new Rad. So that's, but it's basically like the EV, I would say, but it has more maybe in-depth functions. You can assign more MIDI. It has control voltage. You can play analog synthesizers, and it's very light, which I like.
Yeah.
I can have, as I had on stage, I had my saxophone, resting here on my neck, and I could still, play it. It's super lightweight, and ergonomically, it feels so good. And I played through that actually. I used the sounds to Korg apps at that time, the M1 and the Monopoly synthesizer, which I then.
Right. Oh wow, because it had a huge range.
Yeah, it's 8 octaves.
That's insane. I mean, that's more than a piano. It's like
Right.
That's ridiculous. Because I did notice I haven't checked out the trumpeter and the trombonist. They were obviously really, really good, but they were completely in awe of you on that. They were just standing there like blown away by it. It was so amazing.
It's good. With Bill now, that was the first time I ever played in a section. Sometimes I played, over the trumpets. The
Right.
was on lead, and that created a very cool, like kind of new. It goes between the keyboard section, and guitar, and the horns. It kind of blends it all together, which was very interesting timbre. Is it a trumpet or is it key? But you articulate and tongue as a saxophone, so you really get kind of the phrasing in another way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it was very, very interesting. And talking about the keyboards, Gary Husband was the keyboard player. Now, he's got a huge history in the UK because he played with Level 42 and loads of, big names.
Yeah, and he's like one of, I'm so big fan of, he's playing with Alan Holdsworth, and so that was equal, and he was such a sweet guy, like very generous with his knowledge and everything, and that was also, as Cobham, of course, he's they're both it's such mastery, and Gary, that was really great to be able to make music together.
Absolutely,
I like so far for me,
yeah, and it's a nice. I mean, it must be lovely to play on a big stage like that as well.
Yeah,
because usually you're all cramped together, aren't you? Oh, that's brilliant. That's fantastic. So what's next for you? Where can people hear you? What have you got? So at the start of this podcast, your version of Nature Boy, that is just incredible. Okay. Yeah, it's really, really good. And then at the end, I'm going to play Good Spirit, the other one you wrote, you sent, which you wrote.
Yeah.
So have you got new work coming out? Have you got, presumably, are you on Bandcamp and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I suppose like that debut album you can hear on all platforms. Apple Music and Spotify and even YouTube, I think. But currently I'm completing material for my new CD. It's not set. I hope I can finish everything. Not within this year, but sometime before next summer.
Right.
For that album, I like to combine like Swedish musicians with the Japanese. Trying to combine new encounters from both sides into a new project, and also for the new CD include the new rhythm, more electric stuff. Because my first album was a complete acoustic album.
Yeah.
That's that sound. But I want to do something different, and the compositions are also in another. I try to do something that I didn't do with my first debut album, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole point, isn't it? Of you developing as a musician.
Yeah. And in terms of coming up, No, September. I'm out with a Swedish fusion band called Håkon Flight. We're only playing Sweden though. But Billy is we're going on tour October, November in Europe.
Oh, fantastic.
With it's different music. It's Time Machine. This time it was Spectrum 50 Years, I think.
Yeah.
So that was the project name. So but with horns for the last gigs. And in this fall it's Time Machine, so it's completely new music. And but the same members apart from Gary is not in the band. But my dear friend who plays piano on my album, actually, Joel Lysarides, is going to.
Oh, oh, that's wonderful. That'd be that'd be a lovely tour for you.
We basically grew up together, like together.
Wow.
So that's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah. The very idea that Billy Cobham is producing new music in 2024,
Yeah.
when he was working with Miles Davis when I was born in the 1960s,
Right.
it's incredible. I was absolutely blown away by that gig.
Oh, thank you so much, and I'm equally blown away. It was kind of, oh, are we really doing this? I talked with my the home players, Andrea and Antonio, and they were like, "Did we really do this?
Yeah.
Was this happening?"
No, absolutely. And Love Supreme is, well, it's the only, well, no, it's not the only, but it's the biggest festival we've got in the UK that is on one place. London Jazz Festival is huge, but it's all in different venues and across, but Love Supreme is a very special place. I think it's a really good place to come, and so next time you have to come and hang out some more.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we were, so we were leaving early the next day, and it would be nice to just
Yeah.
And we just came from Norway right before, and it was kind of intense. The scheduling was intense this time, but
Yeah.
but it was great festival. It was so great lineup, and the audience, the response was also so great. That was lovely.
Everybody was in shock, to be honest, Bjorn.
Oh,
I mean, really, because there were a couple of other sort of older musicians there who kind of it was brilliant. They were either singers or play, and they were great, but it didn't feel new. That felt new and exciting, and I know it was looking back on Spectrum and obviously the that debut album of Billy Cobham's, but it still felt very new and exciting, which was brilliant.
but Billy, he's like just talking. He turned 80 this year, but
I know.
spiritually he's closer to 45. He's just he the amount of energy he has, socially and everything. He's so vital. It's so inspiring being 80 doing these things.
Absolutely. It was really interesting because I was in the press tent and he walked past because obviously not many people got interviews with him, and he walked past to go and have an interview with somebody. And as he walked past, he saw me just sort of sitting there, and I was like looking at him going, oh my God, that's Billy Cobham. And he just kind of looked at me and went, hi. And it was like, you're Billy Cobham. Do you know who you are? He just said hi to me. It was really nice. So, yeah, that was amazing. He's obviously, really switched on.
Yeah. That's the thing, and you have to play that music.
Yeah.
When we played in Kongsberg the day before, there's a great concert from Kongsberg in Norway from 1974, like 50 years ago.
Wow.
He did that, and he hasn't played there for 50 years. And that lineup was, Mike and Randy Brecker.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're doing this, just as a horn player, you have these heroes that did it years before. But it was an honor being in kind of associated with his name, and also his past members, which are so big heroes of ours.
Yeah. In fact, people were talking over the weekend about the Brecker brothers and the Marsalis brothers as well. Those horn players that made those of us who play saxophones, and trumpets and trombones and things, but also just go, oh, okay, that you can do that. That's okay. You can do that, and just amazing. So we've got a lot, there's a lot to learn from people like that, but it's part of that evolution, isn't it? And that, playing your new red,
Right.
that's just part of that line of development, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But now it's much easier. Like way back, you need to have this big rack,
Yeah.
it wasn't possible without maybe two technicians, just and even if you had someone doing it for you, it could it was too heavy,
Yeah.
sometimes it didn't even work, for the concert. But now it's doable. You can have your laptop or iPad. It creates a different kind of possibilities for the music, and that also takes maybe Cobham's music in 2024, so to speak. You have and also something that the new generation, just from a technology point of view, can contribute and make the music respected, but maybe take it in a new shape, for the current generation.
It's incredible that you can run that through an iPad, isn't it?
It's incredible, and I recommend everyone to try it out.
I'm going to. Don't worry. I'm going to find one and I'm going to give that a go, because that sounds amazing. The only thing is, I'm a baritone player, and I like the sound. My baritone. I've got an old Selma Mark VI. It's just beautiful, and I love the sound it makes down the bottom and the sound it makes at the top. And I think it's that difference. I mean, I guess you can program something like that in.
Wow. You could, in terms of programming, if you really go into depth, there are endless possibilities. But it's also how much time you want to spend with programming.
And I guess you could spend days and weeks trying to get the setup exactly how you want it.
Yeah, so it's, and I'm not that kind of like programming guy. So there's a great homepage called Patchman Music, who made like four different applications and sound banks,
right?
Which I have as a starting point, because I want to focus on the music and I want to have good sounds. And I know of tweaking oscillators and stuff, but it's like that's not the part I'm so interested in.
I get that. Yeah, fantastic. Okay, honestly, it's been such a pleasure talking to you, Bjorn. Thank you so much for agreeing to speak to me for this.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Bjorn Arko. He's such an incredible player. What you're listening to now is Good Spirit from Bjorn Arko's debut album, Stating the Obvious, which is out now, and you can buy it from his website and also stream it. Look forward to giving the new red a try, because it looks incredible and sounds amazing. I mean, I won't get close to what he does on it, but that's just amazing. So thank you for joining me for Harmonious World. Have a really, really good week. Thank you for listening to the latest episode of Harmonious World. My name is Hilary Seabrook, and it's a great delight to bring this series of discussions with musicians and composers and writers and all sorts of people to you. Obviously, there's no point in having a podcast if people aren't listening, and I'm very grateful to my listeners for doing so. Thanks also to Joe English for composing and performing this new theme tune. So wherever you get your podcast, you can leave a review. You can share this with your friends and family, either as a link or on social media and that sort of thing. I'd be really grateful for that. Don't forget that you can subscribe now. There's a link wherever you get your podcasts. So have a great week, and please remember why I started this, which is just to try and make the world a little more harmonious. Thanks for listening to Harmonious World.